has these nuts. That's crazy, Gobu. Crazy way to start this off. But yo, what's going on? Henshin a go baby. What's good, guys? Yoku here. Today I want to watch Soul's video. He just released his video earlier today, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been yesterday, I don't know. But a lot of talk has been going on about like endgame, right? And Zenless Zone Zero. Now, something that I've been doing off the scene, or behind the scenes rather, and I've talked with you guys about this, especially on stream. So if you're not on stream or you're not in my Discord, make sure you follow or join up in there. I do a lot of off the cuff conversations with the community, and we just kind of take part in some things. But one of the things that we've been talking about lately is the state of Zenless Zone Zero and kind of like whether or not it's good or bad. Me personally, I've been saying that I feel like it's in a much healthier state, while a few people have disagreed with that. They could disagree for any number of reasons, right? A lot of people like to conflate the shields, or rather mix them, and they'll say like the overshield buffs in Deadly Assault make the game unplayable or like not good. But Deadly Assault is just one mode of the game, and you don't really have to worry about it. And it's a gacha game. They're going to show the character anyway. Kind of some stuff that you kind of get over. Depends on how long this video is going to take, to be completely honest.
Endgame. This is probably the biggest topic of conversation in the entirety of the Zenless community. And I know a lot of you guys are probably really tired of hearing this conversation overall. Trust me, I am too. But because I'm a creator, I have a lot of people asking me my thoughts on it, how I feel about it. So I was like, you know what? Let's get and put it out there. I want to get and tell you guys why I currently love and hate the current state of endgame in Zenless right now. I just want to provide you guys more overall.
Whose theme is that? I know it, but I can't. I'm pretty sure that's Starro. Whatever.
My thoughts and how I'm feeling about everything, while also probably even throwing in a little bit of my thoughts on the new in-game threshold simulation towards the end of the video. But this will be a overall general feeling of how overall my thoughts are on the current state of the game right now. This will
Argenti, thank you.
Essentially why I think
Kafka? No, that's not Kafka. Is it Kafka?
And maybe if this can be resolved in the future. And so I'm not going to drag you guys on. I'm going to again and start with why I hate the current state of in-game right now in Zenless. So due to a lot of the conversation going on with the game, there has been a very decent.
Hold on, let me pause. I gotta check something real quick. Oh shit, I closed out the YouTube. I closed out the YouTube tab. I'm so glad it doesn't just end the stream automatically. Like I would have to come back and do it, but bro, I accidentally closed it, and that wasn't my intention at all. Let's rewind the video though, because I didn't hear the beginning.
The game, there has been a very decent tone shift within the community on how everybody has been feeling with it. To me, it's very noticeable that people are having less and less fun with the game right now, at least within the social space of Zenless, and a lot of people are becoming more and more frustrated with the game as more patches come out. And I think this is overall because of the overall shift within the meta, as well as like the shift on the focus of characters or archetypes within the game on when it comes to clearing in-game content, making it harder for players that didn't
Hune, great job. I like what you're doing with the editing, because it's like little silly stuff, but it keeps the retention.
Invest into certain things, and because of this has made the game overall a bit less enjoyable within the sense of like how everybody is feeling in the community, and it's overall affected my experience with the game as well. Because I'm a creator, I'm a part of the very social aspect of the game, and so I kind of feed off of the energy on how the community feels with the game. And when everybody, or with a lot of people are currently down on the game, it kind of makes me down on it too, to the point that not only have I been going due to me moving recently, I just kind of took a break from playing the game for a while and just started playing in other things. You guys know I love.
All right, before he goes on with this, because we're gonna talk about 2XKO, what he is, I really want to hone in on that, on what Soul mentioned here, which is how he feeds off the energy. As a content creator, he feeds off the energy of like the community. And so y'all know that I've been talking about something regarding the community for a little bit of time now. I haven't like released a full video on it, so it's just kind of been like clips from streams, or in the Discord, I'll have a full blown like 3-hour conversation on it. The way the community portrays their grievances towards Zenless Zone Zero has affected us in such a way, not just as like me and Soul, right? Just in general creators. It's affected us in such a way where it's created this really weird split. Now, this split is something that I talk about quite often, again, on stream, but most recently I've been talking about it when it comes to like views and how different the views are for everyone. It's not normal. And so some of you that are just viewers, you might see this as maybe like a popularity contest in a way, right? Or what viewers are looking for, what viewers are playing, so on and so forth. And at the moment, I've noticed that there are two things. The first thing is that if you make content that aligns with where the casual audience gravitating towards, you'll end up getting more views. which means that that's what they want. They want something that essentially validates their feelings towards the game not being in a good state, or maybe the game isn't for them, or they don't like the way the game is changing, or they feel like the game is punishing them, whatever the case may be, right? That's one side of things. The second side of things, or the other side of things, is coming from closer to like a creator viewer relationship, where as long as you're making this type of content, you're essentially in good graces with the community. Like the community they're giving you the views, they want to hear what you have to say because you are validating exactly how they feel. It's weird. The way that everything is super weird. So Soul is going to explain how he feels and like how he took a break. And I just kind of want to take a bit to talk about the same thing as well, just as briefly as I can. And it's one of those things where it's demotivating. Not only is it demotivating, but it discourages you to make the content anyway. The audience, the crowd that clearly wants to get better at the game or just enjoy the game, it feels few and far between right now. It doesn't feel like that's where everyone is, even though the player base or the player count is increasing, even though we see like everyone's still streaming the game, right? For as many people that are not happy with the current state of the game, they are still streaming the game. I don't like that negativity, and it's not even negativity to a degree, but maybe there's a better word for that instead of negativity. Complaining about the game is being more positively received than enjoying whatever you have right now. And I guess like hearing myself say that, I could easily hear somebody try and argue the fact that, oh, well, the game is just not enjoyable. But that's not true. Because if it was true, we wouldn't be playing the game. Again, multiple creators, right? Multiple peers of mine have gone on record saying that if the game is not fun, they just won't play it. If we're not having a good time, we won't play it. If the game goes in a certain direction, we won't play it. We'll stop making content on it. And yet here we are doing the same thing. We're still playing it. It's hard to go hard with criticism without spilling into toxic complaining. Yeah, sometimes, like, I guess if we're establishing that, it's not always criticism that we have. A lot of the times these are just complaints. These are selfish requests, selfish complaints. If I were to say something like, I want Zenless to go down the route of air combos and juggling bosses and whatever else, right? That's a selfish request. That's not gonna better the game at all. Like, yeah, it might be more fun because people can fight in the air, but is that gonna make the game better? Probably not. The same thing is applied if we were to talk about like, hey man, I don't like that they're shilling the new characters in the game. All right, so you want them to just not do this thing that they have had a history of doing as a gacha game. Yeah, no, I don't want them to do that. I want them to make it so that my characters that I've invested into, and I don't really care about anyone else's characters, my characters though need to remain top tier. If I personally invest into something, it never needs to touch the bottom floor, right? That's a selfish request. It's just weird. It's such a weird position to be in. That's why when I was talking about it earlier in that whole different conversation, I said Zenless's community we're not split between like two communities. It's like the player base itself is going, you know, one side of the player base is saying one thing and the other side of the player base is fighting for another thing, and they're going at each other about it. And so this creates conflict for the developer, because now the developer is like, well, what do we do? Do we pick option A or option B? Like if we go down the road with on the right, it'll piss off the players on the left. If we go down the road on the left, it'll piss off the players on the right. And you need both. That's the craziest part, right? You can't have one without the other. A lot of the Zenless player base, the casual players, right? A lot of them think that if hardcore players or the in-game players just magically went away, the game would be perfectly fine. And no, unfortunately, that's just not what's going to happen. What will happen as a result of that? And this would be a realistic example, a realistic or a real world scenario of what happens. Let's say all the top players, your top 2%, top 1%, top 0.5%, whatever. Everyone that would be considered a top level player, a high level player, magically just stops playing the game. They all quit. What's going to happen is it's going to drastically decrease what the players, or rather what the developers, are able to see in terms of information. This is going to turn into, oh, everyone is struggling down here, or everyone is just having a good time down here. Let's increase it because there's no more challenge. It's not hard anymore. There's no creativity. Who's coming up with the combos? Who's coming up with the teams? Everyone's playing the game like ABC 1 2 3. So we're just going to treat everything like ABC 1 2 3. And yeah, they'll still make their characters a little bit more unique, right? But when you lose your quote unquote hardcore player base, the ones that are putting in, you know, how to beat certain boss in 30 seconds or less, DU7 clear in 58 seconds with this crazy ass team. This character is busted. CE server access because blah, blah, blah. You need both. You have to have the casual and you have to have the high level player because it creates a good balance, right? Exactly as Thanos said. So I don't know. I just, maybe I'm rambling a little too much though.
Body or with a lot of people are currently down on the game. It kind of makes me down on it too. Fighting games. I'm a big fan of single player games. I've been getting opportunities with companies within my other channel and stuff to play and get to experience and get back into the other side of genres and stuff that I do love. And so I've been spending my time doing that a bit more than kind of playing Zenless and just gacha in general. Even though I'm just not a big fan of gacha as a whole, I just like Zenless. And
I would love if they bumped up Jane. My top 3 characters that I want them to revisit: Zhu Yuan, Caesar. Honestly, Jane doesn't even need, okay, the thing about Jane is that she needs her M2. If we're talking about like improving her, because gameplay wise, Jane is perfectly fine. If we're talking about just improving her, it's a numbers thing. There's very little you could do for Jane, because if you tweak her too much, she becomes busted. Bernice would be a really good example. I could see Bernice. I could see Bernice getting revisited to make her a little bit more aggressive as a DPS character. I would like that. But I don't know, maybe I don't have a third. I know for a fact it's Caesar is my number 1 and Zhu Yuan is my number 2. Those are like, I'll figure out a third later on. Maybe it is Bernice, I don't know.
So because of that, I just kind of took a step back and wanted to,
Ben,
I guess, like, kind
no.
of recollect my thoughts and see if I can fall back in love with Zenless again. I don't completely hate the game. Again, I have a love and hate issue with the game. Just needed to take a step away.
I would accept the whole entire defense class redo. Yes.
And kind of reset a bit. And so being able to do that, and as of recently, probably like this week, I started playing Zenless a bit more, catching up with the story. Like I was still back in like 2.0, 2.1 story. I wasn't even caught up to the current patch of the game.
I'm that far back as well in terms of the story. And I know the story is great. I do like Zenless' story, but as I said in my previous video about Zenless losing its identity, for me, even though I know the story is good, I'm less inclined to play it because it doesn't feel the same. Now, mind you, because I got a couple comments and they were like, one of the comments that I got was saying something like he doesn't think that I play the game because everything that I asked for was in the previous patches. Like they've added those things in the previous updates. And I'm not looking for once a patch, we get this thing. It's not what I'm looking for. But the summer event was great. I think everybody loved that unanimously.
Missed so many Deadly Assault and Sheer resets, so it was like I just wasn't really playing. Being able to come back after taking a break a little bit, I do still feel the tension within the community and how everybody feels, but overall it's allowed me to, I guess, collect my thoughts a bit more on how I feel with everything. And I think that we're currently in a position that we are within game because of the rough start that we got off with season 1 of Zenless. If you guys didn't know, or if you've been here since season 1, you guys know that the first year of Zenless was always known as Anomaly Zone Zero. This was the main class that was getting love,
yeah,
or
we
at
talk
least
about
felt
this
like
a lot.
they were getting primarily focused on, even though we were getting other units outside of just Anomaly within our first year. But I always felt that Anomaly was very dominant, and they seem like they've always been favored, especially within in-game content, making them feel really strong. And because of that, we've gotten a lot of very strong prospects of like who are the better characters within the game within season 1, which is mostly all Anomaly characters. And I feel like that the Zenless devs felt that, and that they felt like that they needed to make a shift from that in order to favor other archetypes and type of characters within the game, so that people that invest into those other characters felt like they were getting love too. And that's what
I think, and I know he's going to finish up with what he's saying, and I'm going to agree with it immediately, but I think the thing about what he just mentioned, right, what Soul just mentioned, was maybe that's where the split happened. And this is why we have the war that we do within the player base. I don't want to blame it, or rather, I don't want to say it's just Anomaly mains, because I don't think it's just Anomaly mains, but I do want to say, I think this war between the player bases, right, this fight, this in-house fighting between the player bases, I think the issue is you've created a player base of casual players and you've created a player base of the veteran or more technical, the hardcore players. So I guess in a way this probably would be exactly what I was saying about Wuthering and them having 2 split communities. So let me walk that back. Maybe Zenless does have 2 split communities. The player base being, one is casual and they feel like they should just be able to do whatever they want, willy-nilly, and receive whatever they want, right? The participation awards is usually what I talk about when I refer to that. The other is the one that kind of wants to work for it, but they don't want to be gate kept or cock blocked from doing or having access to that kind of stuff. I think the reality of it is more along the lines that in order to create that healthy balance, you need all of it. You need bosses that are Anomaly favored, you need bosses that are attack favored, you need bosses that are Rupture favored, so on and so forth. forth. And this is obviously before you get in like different archetypes, right? Like different archetypes would be like Aftershock, defense specific agents, or parry, like all these different things that could apply. Before you get into those archetypes, you need to establish the basis of like different team comps and what they can and can't do. Developers have openly come out and talked about how they want the game to be creative for the player, you know, a little bit more free, so you can build whatever team you want, or try to, at least within reason, of course, and still accomplish whatever it is. But they also want the game to be challenging. They don't want a super easy game. You have an audience, casual player base, that has rejected that mentality entirely. They don't want to do any of that, and they make that very clear. And the developers don't come out and say anything. It's weird.
That's what it seems like season 2 has been all about. They've been trying to focus
Hi, Mama
more
on TV. What up, Hugo?
Their new class Rupture that they're currently building up, and kind of, you know, pushing or dimming down the fire of Anomaly just a bit. And I feel that because everybody was so Anomaly peeled due to the game focusing on Anomaly so much, which is more so what I blame the developers and the teams for pushing the class and making them feel like this impenetrable and unkillable force, it's caused people to essentially fall behind and not really invest into any other aspect of the game due to Anomaly feeling so strong and everything else feeling so much under it within the first year of the game. So everybody is overall feeling that. I feel
make a video saying you're going back to HSR. I don't even think anyone care. Like some people just don't know I even did Star Oil. I don't think they would care. They'd be like, bro, what? Ill.
Like how they're going about this way of essentially shifting the mode from Anomaly to Attack to Rupture, and I guess trying to even the playing field. They aren't really going about it in a really great way. A lot of people, when they talk about in-game, they talk about how they feel about the bosses, HP inflations, and all that stuff. If I'm going to be honest, recently everybody talks about Defiler as an attack-based boss, and when hearing that, I honestly don't think that's a bad idea. I think it's actually good that we have bosses that are centered around being focused to be stronger or have more favorable matchups, depending on the class that the agents are used.
After playing against Priest and then playing a lot against Defiler with Sambi and a few other teams, my opinions about Defiler changed. I thought Defiler was the worst boss in the game. It's like the worst designed boss in the game. It's horrible. And a lot of casual players feel the same way, but they don't feel that way because of the same reasons that I was expressing. They feel that way primarily because they, as Soul just mentioned, they feel like this boss is an attack only boss. Like you have to play attack comp into this boss, right? That's how they feel. That's not true. Now, why other players don't like it, including myself, is because of the time wasting mechanics. Now, as I said just a few moments ago, my opinion about Defiler changed. I don't hate the time wasting mechanics anymore. The reason I don't hate them is because you're properly rewarded for doing them correctly. Would I like to just sit there and mash basic attack for damage all day? Probably, yeah. In the time period that I'm doing it, I'm rewarded moderately. Moderately is better than appropriately. It's still ass, don't get me wrong. If they took it away, I'm not gonna fight for it to get put back in the game. I'm not for it, but I'm taking back what I said that she's the worst designed boss in the game, because she's not. If we're talking about scores, which most players refer to scores when they're looking at Deadliest Soul, your score should be more consistent fighting Defiler versus Priest. That's number one. Number two, any other boss in the game. The scores against Defiler should be so consistent that this boss goes right up there next to Typhon as one of the easiest bosses in the game. Which one is worse? Priest. In my opinion, I think Priest is by far bottom 3 bosses in the game. Not even that it doesn't have a pattern. Priest does whatever the fuck it wants with no tell sign at all. Priest does shit that you don't even know is coded in the game. It literally just does it. Hey, you should go into my asthma phase because I've done enough damage to you. I've broken you to this point to where you should jump into my asthma. I don't feel like it. I'm going to skip to my second phase now. What do you mean by, how are you doing that? Wait, timeout. You didn't go in the air. You didn't do the 1-1-1. Where are my parries? Hey, the thing to get my points says that I need to parry you consistently per 3 seconds. You just went a whole 2.5 minutes not giving me a single parry option within 3 seconds. Yeah, it's Priest. That's just me though, bro. GG's, get
Houston. And so I think it's good that we have an attack-based boss like Defiler. I think it's good that we have anomaly-based boss like with Fiend, and then we have Rupture-based bosses with I believe I think it's the
more doppelganger boss would be awesome.
He's either here now, he's coming up soon. I think it's good that we have like bosses that are supposed to be specialized into using certain classes. I think it allows people to spread out their roster and allow people that have invested into certain things be a bit more favorable, and feel like they're getting some form of love within the meta. But I think where everything goes goes kind of wrong is where the buffs come into
New stream
play,
format,
which is
just for the
overall
YouTube,
shilling.
just for
Now,
the
I want to
YouTube. I'm
make this
testing out the
clear,
short
and
form.
I don't think a lot of creators
stuff.
do this enough. Shilling within in-game has always existed within Zenless. At the very beginning, not
That
only
HP do be
within
inflating.
Deadly Assault, but also Shiyu. And so this has always been a thing. But I will say that the shilling, to the degree that has gotten, wasn't as bad as it is currently. I feel like we are getting too character specific or kit specific with how these buffs are being implemented, and it's becoming very noticeable that they want you to be pulling for these on banner characters at this very moment. Now,
I agree with that. I think most recently, because before I was like, it's whatever, they're gonna shill. There's a buff currently in the game. I'm pretty positive they only just slightly changed it. They changed it from being attack and electric, like attack agents or double attack comps got a certain like crit damage buff, something like that. And then electric got another damage bonus, right? But I'm pretty positive there's a new buff in the game right now just for electric agents. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Ether Veil buff is also a thing, very specific. But to Ether Veil's credit, I think we're getting more characters that drop Ether Veils on the field. No, we don't have just the electric one. Okay, so if we don't have just the electric one, then I'm thinking of a different buff. So maybe that's not what it is. Maybe it is still attack or double attack plus electric. It's still double attacker. Okay. Yeah. So then let's just use the Ether Veil buff then exactly for what it is. The attack is mostly electric. That's what I was under the impression of. But if it's still double attacker, then it works out.
of course, it is a gacha game. This is something that we should all expect. It's not something that I think that you should overall like or just overall expect.
What if we don't? Banyue, to my knowledge, doesn't have Vel. Does he just get to suffer without Lucia then? Well, in Banyue's case, right? This is one of those things where you know this character is coming up. Lucia was just here, and then you would have had this entire patch to save up and then get Banyue. Now, I'm not the dictator of who does what with their accounts, but this would be one of those situations where it's like you definitely should have planned to get his best support. However, according to Pridewind, Panda is shooting up and gonna be amazing for all the Rupture agents. So you might not even need Lucia. And you might just be able to use Banyue and Panda. Who knows?
But it is something that is just always going to be at play, and that you're just going to have to work around and try to fight against, because their whole objective when it comes to making a free-to-play game, especially a gacha game, is that their goal is to not only create a fun game, make content that are designed to shield the new characters coming out. And this is something that just isn't going to stop, and I don't expect them to stop it, but I think there should be some form of adjustment when it comes to like the buffs and the ways that to be shilling to make it not as restrictive as it's becoming lately. Back in the
Off topic, Hune, if you happen to watch this, or Soul, if you happen to watch this, you guys did an amazing job at carrying the video so far. Normally, Soul, you have a lot of like breathy cuts in between. Not breathy like you're breathing, but like there's a lot of space in between the cuts. And I try to get my editor to do the same thing where you take it out. The jump cuts right now, snappy, quick. I love it. You're very good editing, very good job, super smooth.
the past, when it came to like a lot of buffs within in-game, it was noticeable that they were favoring Anomaly in a lot more of these boss fights, and that they want you to use these certain characters. But I felt like that there was a bit more leeway with the buffs, and how like some things can actually be used within other characters, other classes, to still receive some benefits. And I think that they need to go about doing that a bit more with the current buffs that we have within a lot of these current rotations, and I think it'll feel a lot less egregious within in-game. I think if these buffs weren't so character specific and weren't so shilly, I think people would have a lot more of an enjoyable experience with the game, because I think the main thing that a lot of people fell in love with, one of the main things that I fell in love with Zenless, is the ability to be able to comfortably switch and rotate throughout characters and kind of play any of your favorite characters that you want to, no matter the matchup it is. And
I think before he continues, so I agree with what Soul is saying, but at the same time, I don't think the result would be what it might become. And I also don't think, because other people think the same thing, where it's like if the buffs weren't as shilly and you made more neutral buffs, everybody would be happy. And I think there's a very key factor we're not taking into consideration. What we're not considering is the fact that when we had more neutral based buffs, the game was in a much more baby mode state. It was way easier. The HP was nowhere near what it is today. The resistances were not in place. The bosses were not as stally or aggressive, right? They just weren't as detailed or unique as they are now. If you made more neutral based buffs, players like myself and Soul, we would be more at home. What I mean by that, and not just like Souls, right? Just anybody, right? But I'm saying Soul and I because we're on the screen right now. We would be at home because now what would happen if you make buffs less shilly and you turn the game into a more neutral state, you make the slate more neutral, you now force the skill level to go up. You guys know how whenever Dwarf makes his videos, and Dwarf always brings up the bar. He'll talk about where the bar is in relation to the skill floor and the skill ceiling. And then if the bar is just above 20K, that's pretty good. That's where they want it. That's where most players are striving to get. So they get a little bit above 20K. Good. If you make more neutral shield or neutral buffs, neutral territory, I think that bar would naturally be forced to go up because now you don't have the shield buff or even the slightly shield buff, giving you an absurd boost that you would not have otherwise. And now you're forced to learn the rotation, learn the proper combos, learn what your characters or teams can do versus each and every boss, and learn the matchup. Shiro, that's why I say it's a good thing for players like us because we naturally do this anyway. It's bad for the players asking for it. So here's the thing. Most players like ourselves aren't actually asking for the neutral buffs. We would like it and we think it might be a good change. But the players who are asking for neutral buffs are the same players that don't want to put in work to learn anything new. They're the same players that are like, I only play hyper carry, or why would I do this when I can just mash my face across the keyboard and it just works. So when you do something that naturally changes or rather forces them, it's an inadvertent force. It'll naturally happen. They'll complain. They'll find some reason as to why this is a problem and they'll blame it on HP. They'll blame it on power creep, whatever. But the reality is you lost the big ass boost that you were getting from the buff. Now you have a much more neutral buff that everybody can take advantage of. Hey, when you dodge counter 3 times, everyone gets plus 25% crit damage because you can't have a neutral buff that's just as strong as the shield buff. Defeats the point. At that point, all you're doing is asking for the same buff, but you want it to be accessible to you because you didn't want to invest or build whatever that other archetype is. Zenless wouldn't do that. Like Ishwin when she lost her initial DA buff in 2.0 and went to 2.1, exactly. If I'm an M2 Evelyn owner, an M0 Yadhari shouldn't be outscoring or putting up closer scores to my M2 Evelyn because a buff made that big of a difference. On one hand, I agree with you, right? On the other hand, naturally Yadhari is just stronger than Evelyn. Let's just keep it a buck. I don't need neutral buffs, just buffs that apply to a few different characters, so it isn't quite as shill as it is right now. I could see that. And yeah, Shiro, I agree with you. The buffs are egregious. The shield buffs in particular are very egregious. So I would like them to tone that down as well. I'm not really in favor of them. That's not what I'm trying to get across here. What I am saying though is if you made neutral slated buffs, if you made a much more neutral territory, it would naturally force players to get better at the game or they're gonna bitch even harder. Imagine having a buff for Miyabi that did not give her the equivalent of an AM6 or an attack 6 or a free disc 4 AP, right? 40% extra damage on disorders. Imagine not having that. And instead she got something that would benefit all anomaly characters, but at a lesser degree. And so now you're forced to not only correct your builds, you can't go in there with a bullshit ass Miyabi build. Now you need a strong Miyabi build. Now you need a strong team. Now you need to understand how to play the team, the combos, the rotations, and move on from there.
Rotate throughout characters and kind of play any of your favorite characters that you want to, no matter the matchup it is. And this somewhat still exists within the game, as I'm someone that plays Soldier 11 no matter where people think she is within the tier list. And I can comfortably tell you that I'm able to clear content with her still, as long as I have the proper teams and builds and characters and, you know, overall investment lined up with her in order to clear content. So yes, I've still done the recent DA.
If a player's skill is what's stopping them from getting DA and 60K and Deadly Assault, I think that's a lot more tolerable than basically lying to players for a patch into thinking they are better than they actually are because they had a Jesus buff. You know what? Wording it that way, I completely agree with you. And I think for me, I wasn't even thinking of the 60K. I'm thinking of like that 20, 25K range. But if we're talking like 60K, I absolutely agree. I guess even to an extent, I might even still agree with you, even if we were talking about 20 to 25K, if you word it in that particular fashion. Because I'm naturally in favor of players just getting better at the game, any game. If you're playing Wuthering and you're sweating your ass off and the community or the bosses are hard, get better at the game. You're playing Genshin, get better at the game. Starrel, get better at the game, right? Like, I'm vehemently against just giving people participation awards. I don't agree with that at all.
I think we had Miasma Priest last time. I cleared it with Soldier 11. I was able to clear Defiler with Soldier 11. Last time I did Complex, before I went for my DA kill attempt, and when we did, what's the electric boss that freaking kills itself with a defensive assist, it's slipping my mind right now. You guys know what boss I'm talking about. I was able to clear with Soldier and see there as well. So I'm someone that's, you know, I pull for the characters that I enjoy, and that's one of the main things that I always strive and focus on and push people to do. And so I think with the current state in the game is that you are able to still play the things that you want, and you are able to essentially have a little bit of experimentation to fight against different bosses, no matter what's being shielded. But I will say it has been feeling to get harder and harder to do so, and I don't know if I like the fact that it is going down this route because of, I guess, how egregious the buffs and stuff are getting. I think they're doing enough with like the matchups overall of like being more favorable for attacks, rupture and anomaly based off the bosses themselves. I think them being more favored there based off the bosses themselves is already good enough. I don't think they need to do all this extra shielding that they're doing with the buffs in order to make these characters feel so much stronger, because I think the reverse effect or the downside is that once these characters stop getting shield, people tend to realize very quickly that these characters aren't as strong as I thought before, and they start to feel weaker and weaker, which is something that people were starting to run into with like Yi Zhuan when her shield buffs were slowing down before we recently got Lucia with the Ether Veil buff. And so because
that's what, or that was mentioned in chat with Yi Zhuan going from 2.0 into 2.1, and like the buff was so dramatic. That buff alone was the reason so many players, Prywin included, were like, yo, Yi Zhuan is stronger than Miyabi. She's up there. She's tier 0. The same thing could be said for Miyabi too. Let me make sure. When Miyabi was here, she had a buff that allowed her to basically run an attack disc 6 because they gave her the equivalent of an AM disc 6 for free, just from the buff alone. And this encouraged players to run Miyabi with attack 6 instead of anomaly 6 when she wants anomaly. And it created a huge back and forth, huge argument, discussion, whatever.
This, I think that there is essentially a lot more healthier alternative that we can go about in order to make these characters still feel like they're worth the pool without overall sacrificing, I guess, the enjoyment and integrity of the end game. Again, I know this is a gacha game, so they're going to shield and they're always going to push the idea of pulling and purchasing new characters coming out. But I just think that there is a healthier way to go
Lambs,
about
do your
this,
thing,
so
bro. Thank you for hanging out.
as aggressive and unfun for the community, because again, that's the whole reason why like I was down about the game, and most of the reason why I guess hate in-game is because it's causing this conversation, this disgruntledness, and this overall aggressive nature and hate within the community towards it that's making it feel less and less fun. And I think because of this, it's slowly causing people to...
I like how they keep reusing the same thing over and over.
fade away and stop playing the game over time. And that's not something I want, because I still think Zenless is a great game. I think it's definitely my favorite gacha game on the market still right now, and I love when new people get into it and overall enjoy it a lot more. This is a feeling that overall burdens people that's been playing the game the most or the longest overall, instead of like a lot of new players, because a lot of new players, they end up getting the new stuff that overall benefits the current meta of the game, because most of their pools are going to be investing into the new things. But everybody that has like overall a year's worth of investment and they have a lot of the older characters that they still love and enjoy, I feel like you're getting hurt and harmed because you're not able to overall enjoy the characters that you had before and the characters that you love. And I don't like that feeling at all with Zenless, and I think that overall hurts the overall beauty and nature of the game, because the game is so expressive and allows skill expression to almost to the highest degree for almost any gacha game that I've played, which isn't a lot, admittedly. I don't really play this genre too often, but it's fun, and I think that's something that's one of the main things that I want Zenless to continue to hold. I want
I know I'm losing my train of thought here on like what he just said, but he was talking about the differences or the different things with the gacha games and shilling. A part of me feels like Threshold is supposed to be that neutral-ish type of in-game content. It's a combination of Deadly Assault, a little bit of Tower, and some Shield defense. And I think the buffs inside of Threshold aren't as egregious because everyone has a buff. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Threshold, every single archetype has some type of buff, and they even give you the trial characters to use inside of Threshold. Because where I was going with that, while I was listening to Soul talk about that, I was gonna say that I think we need a new end game. I think we need a new end game that does give you that more neutral ground in order to really test yourself. And then I was like, well, that's Tower, right? Tower is neutral and it's more challenging. Doesn't really care about the HP inflation. It doesn't really matter. And they hit like way harder, right? Different variations of the bosses. Like, yeah, everyone doesn't play Tower, especially because there's only rewards up to like a certain floor. And then I thought about Threshold. I was like, wait a minute, Threshold has the same thing, but the buffs aren't egregious or as egregious. And I feel like that would be the case. So like while we're looking at Deadly Assault for what we have going on, maybe they made Threshold for this specific thing that we're talking about. And so if that is the case, if we bring this into the conversation, if Threshold was the in-game mode they made in order to appease, or rather to simmer down the feelings of Deadly Assault and the buffs and whatever else, wouldn't that be worth noting? Or are we at a point now where like as a community, we reject Threshold? We want Deadly Assault to be Threshold? Is because that's what it sounds like a lot of people want. Because no, I don't really hear people talking about Threshold. People are treating Threshold like it's Tower. They're treating it like a one and done. Like, okay, it's done. I don't have to touch it anymore. It is what it is. I think the reset for Threshold is too long for it to be noticed, right? I don't even know what the reset is for Threshold. So maybe that is too long, right? Because I don't know when it resets.
Them to continue to hold the fun factor of the game. And
but it definitely shouldn't be the speed at which Deadly Assault and She reset. Those reset what, every 2 weeks? Threshold should reset probably once a month. Give the players enough time to go through all of Threshold with whatever they got going on. It's 42 days. Ah, that sounds like Star Rail.
I feel like that over time, this is slowly just begin to whittle down because of this whole.
So yeah, it might be once per patch if it's 42 days.
So frustrated with it. But other than that, though, I still love the game. I think Zenless is a beautiful game. It's a lot of fun to play. Pretty much hate the direction that, or some of the things that they're doing with in-game. What aspects do I still love about it? And I think the main things that I love about in-game still is that it presents me the challenge that I've always been facing since playing in-game the whole time. I've been somebody that's been attack pilled ever since the game's been out because I just find the attack class the most satisfying. So I've been someone that's essentially been fighting against the odds that in-game has been providing me the whole time. When things was anomaly focus and anomaly shield, I just enjoyed playing the characters that I like, which is the main thing that I always push and advocate for. Me being someone that still only pulls for the characters I enjoy, of course I am benefiting a bit from all the newer bosses that essentially benefits the characters that I play, but I still do play a lot of the older characters in the game that I just overall enjoy, have fun with. And so essentially my goal.
I wonder why they're so like glued to Soldier 11. I know that's their favorite, but like we got Minato now.
Is that if I can still clear with all the characters that I enjoy playing, no matter how high of a score I had before, I overall still enjoy the game. Now, I am someone that still push for high scores the best that I can, but I don't let that overall deter me or essentially kill my overall experience if I'm not able to hit the scores that I had previously before. I do worry about not being able to clear at some point as those scores continue to get lower and lower. But as of right now, the thrill and excitement of being able to push onward, push through adversity and challenge, that's something that I love about Zenless. In that
I think that's because Soul, you're normal. And I know that people would take that as an insult. I don't mean it that way. I'm saying that you're normal in a sense that the way you receive gaming, the way that you're already accustomed to like ranked systems and scaling and climbing and bettering yourself in the game, it's normal. And it's normal to other people that do these things, right? That play these games or play other games, or the case may be. And what I've learned over my few years of doing gacha game content is that most gacha game players don't play other games. They only play gacha games. Maybe whatever's popular, right? Like if when Expedition 33 came out, they'll jump on that for like 2 days. I don't know. I don't think this sentiment is common across the entire board.
I'm able to still do and overall enjoy and get maximum reward from it currently within this state of the game. That hasn't really changed much. It's gotten harder, but like I stated before, it's overall still possible.
I like Soldier 11 because of her frame inputs as well. Absolutely.
to play what you want. And that's what I've been loving about the game still. And I hope that they continue to offer and provide that aspect, because I understand that in order to continue to use the characters I've always played, continue want to play within the future, I have to invest into them any which way that I possibly can if I want them to still improve. So for me, if I want to continue to get Soldier level, I need to continue getting copies of her. I need to continue to invest into the characters that work really well with her, and see if there's other team alternatives that I can come up with and build when new agents come and when new sets come out. That's the things that I enjoy, because I love making my older agents feel new. But I know that's something not everybody cares about. So even though that might be something.
Lion, do your thing, big dog. Have a good night, man. Have a good night. Hopefully you have a good day tomorrow as well.
Now, I love about the game and why it's continuing to makes me still push and play and still enjoy. Now that might not be what allows you.
What up, Ghost?
Everybody has their thoughts and opinions on it, and I'm just here to provide mine. But overall, the goal that the developers are trying to push right now, I feel like that we're trying to get to an equilibrium, and I think we're just in a rough patch right now that will overall subside or hopefully get better over time once we hit that equilibrium, once we hit that middle road where all of the characters are able to essentially equally benefit from one another. But of course,
this is what I was talking about earlier, guys. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said that hitting that middle ground for like players requires both sides of the community, right? Both player bases to come to their own middle grounds, because the developers right now are making decisions based off what they think each side of the player base is doing or asking for. Casuals want one thing, and then the dedicated players or more seasoned players, right? Like the high level players, they want another thing. Some things are in the middle, synonymous. We both want these things. A lot more things between each party, they're conflicting.
I do think there will need to be some form of change and some form of improvements that allow things to open up and feel better. And I think one of the things that allow that to happen is providing new alternatives into in-game, which is essentially offering new in-game, offering new content for us to enjoy other than just adding new bosses. And I think that Threshold Simulation was a great addition for that. And added a new layer of in-game that allows, it makes feeling like playing our older agents and characters that, were in their prime before. And
see, I knew I wasn't tripping. I thought maybe Threshold would be that mode, right? Like the thing that players are asking for would be Threshold. And I find it so hilarious, right? I feel like it's funny that Threshold might just be the mode casual players are asking for, but those same players have come out and talked about why they don't like Threshold. Like they don't think it's good. So it's weird. You hate that it uses DA buffs, but like, that's what I was saying, right, Roman? The buffs exist for everyone. So in Deadly Assault, there's only 3. There's shield, you know what I mean? That's what we don't like. But in Threshold, everyone has a buff. Like there's a shield buff for everyone in Threshold. So like, unless you purposely like, okay, this is how Threshold is, right? Let's say that you go up against something and it's like, all right, cool, bro, like fight the thingy with fire and attack, right? So we're gonna buff up fire and attack. You have to purposely say, you know what? I don't want to fight the thing with fire and attack. I'm gonna fight it with ether and anomaly, and I want to use an ether and anomaly buff, but it doesn't exist because I'm fighting the fire and attack. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, you purposely have to go against the grain inside of Threshold to not have a buff that works for any of your characters. There's 5 different, this is way more than 5 buffs, but still, is there more than 5? There might just be 5 per floor, if I'm not mistaken.
And it essentially provides, I guess, like a reset of a very or provides us a new alternative way to enjoy the characters that we have. And I think that's one of the main things that they have to do and push in order to make our characters feel good again and great again, even while also making adjustments to the buffs that they offer. One of the things I meant to bring up earlier is that I think in-game also feels like a struggle and people are declining their enjoyment of the game.
I just want a mode that will let me use my agents raw without any buffs and shields. Isn't that tower? That's tower, isn't it? Hold on, wait a minute. That's tower, right? There is no shield buff. Tower has some buffs, but they don't have any shield buffs. Bro, I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't imagine playing this game without no buff at all. The current state of the game, hell no.
It's because you're probably feeling a bit of in-game fatigue, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I took my break from the game.
You gonna fight one of these late game bosses, and it's gonna have fucking 2-second stun windows because you ain't got no buffs.
Getting fatigue at like, you know, me not enjoying the bosses and stuff, and it just wasn't enjoyable. So I needed a shifted change in pace, and whether that me taking a break from the game and playing something else, or the game introducing something different and new that allows me to essentially attract my attention there. I know a lot of people that you don't like Tower, so Tower isn't an option for people. So a lot of people just mostly focus on Shiyu and Daily Assault. But with Threshold Simulation, people seem to somewhat like it and are finding their interest there. So maybe this is the change of pace that we needed in order to essentially make in-game feel a much more full experience again.
I promise I didn't pre-watch this video. He's saying things that I already said. I promise I didn't watch this video beforehand, bro.
I think it's definitely going to take time, and they're definitely going to need to make adjustments and improvements to their game, but I think that is one way in order to make the game feel a bit better. I think that's all I have to say for why I love and hate in the game. It's a very mixed emotion and very mixed feeling with the game currently right now, but I think overall, Zenless is a game I still enjoy enough to the point that, you know, I want to continue to cover content, I want to continue to grow a community with it, and I want to continue to talk about the game the best that I can. But this is a conversation that's, you know, drains a lot of energy out of people, and even me, to the point that I don't want to keep talking about this. So I want to kind of end my thoughts on the state of in-game currently right now, and just kind of end it here to maybe, I don't know, maybe to the end of season 2, or if something major happens to the point that the game just becomes unbearable, we'll bring it up. Or if something really drastic and good happens to the game, we'll talk about it then. But I think I provide enough of my thoughts to give you guys a full picture of how I'm currently feeling. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are.
So this is a great video. I mean, I kind of yapped throughout the entire thing. I'm gonna leave the link down below, both in the video and in the stream. You guys go show Soul mad support, like that video, comment, play it in the background. From a creator perspective, like homie and the creator of Soul, you did a great job. Hyun did a great job, but I really wanna, I know this wasn't a scripted vid, and I think this might be one of your first vids that you were just off the cuff. Hyun did an amazing job at keeping up the pace and cutting out any potential ums or dead air, so the entire video just flows. If I wasn't reacting to this would have been something that like passes by super smooth. Amazing. I'm very, very proud of you for being able to like do that. Really good stuff. Grok, is this true? Oh my gosh, bro. But ultimately, bro, as I said throughout the entire thing, I pretty much agree with so much of what you were saying. Some things I don't necessarily think I disagreed with, but I think I might have disagreed with the sentiment behind it, or rather like what you thought would happen. But only time will tell when it comes to that kind of stuff. Guys, if you guys watch this entire thing, and this depends on if I fix that corrupted part of the video or not. If you guys watch the entire thing, like I said, show Soul some love. Go to his original video, tell him how you feel, whether or not you agree, disagree, whatever the case may be. Compliment him and Hyun on the editing. This is a great video. I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you all for watching today's video. I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Smell you later. That doesn't mean that that person is now going to go look for other people making Wuthering content that almost may be like Doro's. You have not passed the vibe check. For them, Doro is the vibe check.